The next thing to discuss when talking about intellectual property is why should we even have intellectual property? And the reasoning behind intellectual property, giving people the ownership of different ideas, is that it will incentivize people to create. And so it incentivizes artists to create music and allows them to create music and earn their living that way so they could do that full time, and we could benefit from the joy of music or movies or books or, I don't know, is that it? Are those all the arts, music, movies, and books? That's a lot of it, certainly, right? So, intellectual property, allowing people to own ideas, have ownership of ideas, incentivizes them to create intellectual property assets so they can recoup their investment on it. Because if I own a song, then I have the rights to it and I get to sell it. Nobody else can sell it. And if they're selling it, they're breaking the law. And there's actionable legal recourse, which I could take as the owner of the intellectual property to recover lost damages, to sue them and get money from them, and to stop them from selling what I own. And so it's not only with movies and books and songs, but also with software, right? So that's covered by intellectual property, incentivizing companies to create software. Like, for instance, Microsoft creates Microsoft Office. And when I buy Microsoft Office, I'm not buying Microsoft Office. I am buying the right, a license to use Microsoft Office. Because if I bought Microsoft Office, I can then go set up shop and start mass producing and selling it to everybody. And obviously, I don't own Microsoft Office. I only own the right, a license to use Microsoft Office when I buy it. So, having ownership of ideas incentivizes businesses to create things of an intellectual nature and allows them to own it so that they can sell it. And that's with anything that's of an intellectual nature. So another big one would be pharmaceutical companies create pharmaceuticals, create drugs, and then they own for a limited period of time a monopoly on that drug, and nobody else can sell it. And then they're able to recoup their investment for the amount of money they spent trying to create that. Or, right, where else would intellectual property play in? With patents, right? So you create a new, better mousetrap and you go and you patent it, or you create a new way of, doing certain whatever it might be that, because patents are for inventions, basically. So you invent something new, a new rocket, right, or a new engine for a car, and then you go get a patent on it, and you own the way that that's done, and nobody else could do that, or you could sue them. And of course, so like Apple patented like the little things, movements like swiping the screen or making your screen bigger or smaller. And Apple didn't invent that; they actually stole that technology, but they patented it, and then they sued people for using that technology. So intellectual property is actually a type of war that corporations wage against each other. And but owning patents isn't without value. It does give you some business leverage. You could own a patent, you could own a copyright, like we were talking about copyrights at the beginning with software and with movies, books, and songs. And you could also own a trademark. And so a trademark is a mark for doing trade or a mark for doing business. And it allows you, to say, hey, only we get to use the BMW logo. Nobody else can use this logo. And so, that intellectual property ownership allows us to get to know different brands and develop a relationship, trust or lack of trust in those brands. And so that's the reason for intellectual property, to motivate people, to, incentivize people to create things, assets of an intellectual property nature. And it's good for economies. Some economies do not respect intellectual property. And so like if you go over to Asia, notoriously, they are like, whatever, and they just rip off anything, songs, movies, books, software, and you could find toasters with the BMW logo probably. They don't care. No respect. There's fake Apple stores in China. And so, by doing that, they really sort of undermine their own economy, because then, entrepreneurs in those countries aren't incentivized to create something new, because they'll never be able to recoup their investment, at least not in their home country. And, because other people just rip it off once they've spent all the money to create something and invent it. All right, so that's why we have intellectual property, because it incentivizes people to create and invest in something and create things of an intellectual property nature.